You might be that passenger, and you don't even know it. Every day, millions of people step onto airplanes thinking they're just following the usual routine. Grab a seat, stash your bag, maybe sneak off your shoes. No big deal, right? But in the tightly packed world of air travel, the tiniest move can turn into a full-blown etiquette crime. And here's the kicker. The rules that matter most, they're not printed on any sign. They're unspoken, unwritten. And when you break them, you'll know. Not because someone tells you, but because suddenly, the entire row is giving you side eyes that could melt steel. Airplanes aren't just transportation, they're flying social experiments. Strangers shoulder to shoulder, personal space erased, and tension bubbling just below the surface. And whether you realize it or not, your behavior up there matters, way more than you think. So before you board your next flight, there are 7 things you need to know. Because these aren't just minor travel slip-ups. They're the silent mistakes that turn smooth flights into awkward, chaotic ones. And the worst part? Even seasoned travelers still mess these up. Let's just say, rule number 5? It's the one that even frequent flyers screw up almost every time. You've seen it before, maybe you've even done it yourself. You're running through the airport, heart pounding, boarding time creeping closer with every step. And then you see it, the security line. It stretches endlessly. A human traffic jam of shoelaces, laptops, and sighs. Panic sets in. You're seconds away from begging. You tap someone on the shoulder. Hey, my flight's boarding. Mind if I cut ahead? It sounds reasonable in the moment, polite even. But what you just did, that's the travel equivalent of throwing a grenade into someone else's day, because now that person's stuck. Say yes, and they risk missing their flight. Say no, and they look like the world's biggest jerk. It's an impossible ask disguised as a desperate plea. And the truth is, most people aren't trying to be rude, they're just overwhelmed. But this move creates a ripple of anxiety that spreads down the line. You can actually feel the tension. Build, one skipped traveler at a time. And here's the wild part. There's a smarter, faster way out. Airport staff deal with this exact situation all the time. They're trained for it. Walk up to an agent, calmly explain you're in trouble, and they'll usually help move you forward. No guilt trips, no dirty looks, just a system that actually works. But most people don't think of that. In the heat of travel stress, they default to the fastest, most awkward shortcut. The one that turns fellow travelers into obstacles instead of allies. And it's a shame, because avoiding that one move could save you the exact thing you're fighting for, time. It always starts the same way. A quiet shuffle, a sigh of relief, and then bare feet. Right there, in full view, toes. Stretching out like they own the place. And if you've flown more than once, you've probably seen it. Someone kicks off their shoes mid-flight and suddenly acts like they're lounging in their living room. But here's the thing, airplane floors aren't just dirty. They're mysteriously dirty. Like the kind of dirty where no one really knows what's been spilled, stepped in, or smeared across that cramped grey carpet. And let's not even talk about the bathroom. Turbulence plus tiny toilets equals a splash zone nobody wants to think about. Still, people convince themselves it's harmless. My feet are clean, they think. I'm just trying to get comfortable. But the moment you go barefoot, you're crossing an invisible line between personal comfort and public offense. Because no one, absolutely no one, paid hundreds of dollars to sit next to your uncovered feet at 35,000 feet in the air. It's not just about germs, it's about respect. There's something deeply unsettling about seeing raw heels propped on the seat in front or toes, creeping across the aisle like they're out for a walk. And the fix couldn't be easier. A pair of socks, travel slippers, literally anything that puts a barrier between your skin and whatever chaos is living on. That floor. It's small, it's simple, and it keeps you from becoming the passenger that everyone secretly Snapchats in disgust. Because once you take those shoes off, you're not just relaxing, you're making a statement. And trust me, it's not the one you think. You're rushing to the bathroom, boarding pass in one hand, carry-on swinging from the other, and suddenly you realize you can't take everything with you. So, like clockwork, you turn to the nearest person and ask, hey, can you watch my stuff for a minute? It feels harmless, it feels normal, but what you just did was quietly hand off a massive responsibility to a complete stranger. And most people have no idea just how risky that move really is. Because here's the uncomfortable truth. Airports treat unattended bags like potential threats. And the second that friendly stranger needs to leave or gets uncomfortable, now your bag is a red flag. Best case, it ends up in the hands of security, wasting time and raising eyebrows. Worst case, you've sparked a full-blown security sweep, delays, and a lot of uncomfortable questions about what's inside that carry-on. And the stranger? They're stuck holding your baggage, literally and legally. It's not about paranoia, it's about the world we live in. Everyone's on edge, and airport security isn't a place for misplaced trust. That person sitting near you don't know where they're going, when they're leaving, or how much responsibility they're willing to take on for a bag that's not theirs. And frankly, they shouldn't have to. The solution is brutally simple. Take your stuff with you. Yes, it's annoying, yes, it's clunky, but it's yours, and it's your job to keep it close. That tiny moment of convenience isn't worth the awkwardness, the risk, or the potential to become that passenger. The one who disappeared for 3 minutes and accidentally set off an airport alert. It sounds innocent enough. Hey, would you mind switching seats so I can sit with my friend? The voice is polite, the request casual. But what most people don't realize is that this tiny question can set off a chain reaction of awkwardness, resentment, and subtle travel politics, all because of one unspoken truth. Not all seats are created equal. The window seat isn't just a view. It's a wall to lean on, a buffer from foot traffic, and for some, the only way to survive a long-haul flight without feeling boxed in. So, when someone asks you to trade that prized spot for a middle seat, they're not asking for a favor. They're asking you to downgrade. The problem is, it doesn't always feel unfair in the moment. Maybe they say it's just a quick switch. Maybe they smile and talk about sitting with family. But behind that request is often a quiet assumption that you're willing to take the hit for their comfort. And if you say no, you're the villain. You're selfish. You're the one keeping a couple apart. But here's the reality. You chose that seat. You may have paid more. You might need it for a reason. And you're not obligated to give it up just because someone asks nicely. The only time a swap really works is when it's equal. Window for window, aisle for aisle. Otherwise, it's not a trade. It's a guilt-laced request that puts all the pressure on the person being asked. And the most frustrating part? The person doing the asking usually walks away with what they want, while you're left crammed between two strangers, wondering why you agreed in the first place. So next time you're tempted to shuffle the seating chart mid-flight, pause. Ask yourself, would you make the same trade in reverse? Because unless the answer is a genuine yes, the best seat swap might be no swap at all. It's one of the most divisive moves in air travel. The slow lean back, or worse, the sudden jolt when someone slams their seat into recline like they're collapsing into a beanbag. You can almost hear the groan behind them. A laptop gets pinned, a drink nearly spills, and just like that, an unspoken battle begins. Because reclining isn't just about comfort, it's about territory. And in economy class, that territory is tight. Every inch matters. The problem is, most people think of reclining as their right. The seat goes back, so I can use it. Technically, sure, but practically, that decision affects someone else's space, someone else's legs, someone else's tray table mid-meal. You're not just reclining, you're invading. And when it happens without warning, it turns your need for rest into someone else's problem. It's the kind of move that seems small, but leaves a lasting impression, especially on a 6-hour flight. So what's the fix? It's shockingly simple. Just ask. A quick, quiet, mind if I lean back a little, changes everything. It turns a selfish act into a shared decision. It gives the person behind you a chance to adjust, to move their laptop, to finish their coffee without wearing it. And if you do recline, do it slowly. No one wants to feel like they're in a car crash because you decided it's nap time. Reclining isn't evil, it's not banned, but it is a choice that comes with consequences. And a little courtesy goes a long way. Because when space is limited and patience is thinner than the seat cushions, how you recline can be the difference between a peaceful ride and a passive-aggressive flight full of elbow jabs and dirty looks. You finally make it to your row, carry-on, in hand, only to discover the overhead bin is already stuffed to the brim. You glance around, no one's even sitting in your section yet. So where did all this luggage come from? Welcome to the unspoken war of overhead bin space, a free-for-all where some passengers play dirty before the game even starts. They board, early march down the aisle, and stash their bags wherever they please, often several rows ahead of their actual seat. Why? So they don't have to lift it later, so they can grab it first when landing, so they don't have to fight for space above their own row. In other words, they're thinking only about themselves. It might seem like a clever move, one step ahead of the chaos, but it throws everything off, because now the person who actually belongs in that row has nowhere to put their bag. They're stuck, blocking the aisle, holding up boarding, and forced to backtrack in a cramped plane with 20 other people trying to squeeze by. All because someone decided to treat the overhead bins like first come, first served real estate. The irony? This one move creates delays, frustration, and even risks getting your bag moved to the belly of the plane when space runs out. And the fix is so simple, it almost feels ridiculous to say, just put your bag above your own seat. That's it. That's the rule. And if your bin is full, ask a flight attendant. They've seen every bin disaster imaginable, and they'll almost always find a spot that doesn't involve throwing someone else's trip into disarray. Because overhead, bin space isn't a strategic battlefield, it's a shared resource. And when one person cheats the system, everyone else pays for it. So next time you're tempted to stash and dash, remember, taking the extra 10 steps to your actual seat might be the most considerate move you make all flight. It hits you before you even see the person. A smell, sharp, overwhelming, unmistakable, tuna, or maybe it's egg salad, or something microwaved within an inch of its life. Whatever it is, it's strong enough to make your eyes water, and you realize someone just unpacked their personal picnic in row 14, and now the entire cabin gets to share it. This is the airplane food fiasco, the moment when one passenger's snack becomes everyone else's nightmare. Bringing your own food on a flight makes sense. Airline meals can be pricey, bland, or non-existent. But what most people forget is that smell doesn't stay in your seat. In a pressurized metal tube with recycled air, your food becomes communal, whether people like it or not. And let's be honest, most don't. That garlic-heavy leftover pasta, that curry you swore didn't smell at home, even that just one-time fish sandwich, it all lingers, hanging in the air like a bad decision that won't go away. What's worse, people often unpack these meals with zero awareness. No napkins, no space, just elbows out and crumbs everywhere. It's not just rude, it's invasive. No one should have to spend hours breathing in someone else's lunch. Especially when the fix is so easy, it almost doesn't need saying, pack low-smell, travel-friendly snacks. Crackers, dried fruit, trail mix, cheese and crackers. Something you can eat without making the guy 2 rows back reconsider his life. Choices. Because food on a plane isn't just fuel, it's a statement. And if yours clears a 5-seat radius, it's probably the wrong one. The goal isn't just to eat, it's to eat without making everyone else suffer. Keep it simple, keep it subtle, and save the tuna melt for solid ground.